Next, we have feat 12660. In this feat, we've done space supporting enhancements in the stored summary widget in Prism element. So starting with 518, we enhanced the stored summary widget in Prism element to show much more information as to how data is stored and consumed in AOS. And also we added visual cues to show the usage capacity remaining and thresholds. Once it starts reaching thresholds, there are different color-coded patterns. And also there was an additional view detail section added to Prism element in the stored summary widget that customers asked us for more visibility into the environment. This particular feature builds on that and also will now show space used by snapshots in both logical and physical views. So as I mentioned, we used to show the use space in the stored summary widget as actual user data, recycled bin data, which was added recently in the reserved space if there's reserved space on the cluster. But customers who still wanted more clarity as to how the various parts of the user data, like snapshots, or how much space is being consumed by snapshots in the cluster, and wanted more clarity around usage statistics on the cluster. So this feat now will show space occupied by the snapshots in the widget. It will show in the main window as well as in the view details section. And then snapshot space that is consumed by all snapshots, whether it's locally taken snapshots on the cluster or if there are snapshots taken somewhere else but moved to the current cluster where the administrator is looking at, those that space will be added to the snapshot space and shown in this enhancement. So this is what it would look like. As you can see, the total use capacity is 781 megabytes, and then of that additional 488 megabytes is a snapshot capacity. So it breaks down how much of the use capacity is used by snapshots, which gives administrators better understanding of what their environment looks like. The next feat I'm going to talk about is the whole node maintenance mode, which is feat 11096. So what does this feature do? This functionality has been requested by a lot of our customers, especially on AHV, where they want to put a host down or take a host out of the cluster for maintenance mode for doing various kind of operations like firmware upgrades or hardware upgrades or any issues regarding a node. But as of now, customers have to go to the CLI to do these operations. So now this feat provides capability to put node into maintenance mode from Prism itself in AHV. So why are we delivering this feature? Admins, as I said, they've been used to using maintenance mode with ESXi, where in vCenter you can take a host out in maintenance mode on 3-tier architectures. As with HCI systems where storage is inherent as part of the node, it becomes a little challenging in putting the host into maintenance mode, where now vSAN provides a way to a bunch of different options to put the host into maintenance mode without kicking off data recreation or moving data around. In Nutanix, we had to shut the CVM down to put that particular host into maintenance mode from vCenter, which was a pain. And then the other thing I said was CVM has to be shut down manually from the CLI, and there's the other option to do maintenance mode from the CLI, which is cumbersome, and admins have to do various steps to make sure they get it correct to take a host down in maintenance mode. And not having the UI element is troublesome for customers to achieve that. So this particular feat, now we for AHV, the first iteration, we're going to do this for AHV. If you log into the Prism and go to the hardware page, now we have an option in Prism to put the host into maintenance mode. What will happen from the cluster's perspective is, if there are VMs on that particular node, those VMs will be live migrated to the other nodes in the cluster to ensure that they are still available. And then if there are any VMs which are which has the affinity to that particular host, like pin VMs, or there are any RF1 VMs which have a host affinity, they will be asked to be powered off before entering the maintenance mode. And then so this is what happens when you put a host into maintenance mode. It's going to ask you, it's going to, if there are VMs, as I said, which are pinned or RF1 VMs, it's going to ask for those VMs to be powered off so that the host can be taken out into maintenance mode. And there's a capability to view these VMs as well. And then the remaining VMs will be live migrated, as I mentioned, to the other host. And once the admins have done the task required for that particular host, whether it be upgrades or firmware upgrades or whatever needed to be done, when the host is ready to be brought back in, from Prism itself, you can select exit maintenance mode, which will take the host out of maintenance mode and add it back to the cluster for it to be in production. And the additional thing that the system or the cluster will do is the VMs that were originally on that particular host will be moved back to that host to go back to the original configuration that was there, and also the power of VMs will be powered on. Another thing to keep in mind is when the hosts are taken into maintenance mode, they are unschedulable from the hypervisor from AHV's perspective. So any new VMs that are created will be created on the other nodes and not on this particular node. The next feat we are going to talk about is cluster expand redesign. This is phase 2. Phase 1 came in AOS 6.0. This is feat 12637, which is in AOS 6.1. So this is, as I said, the phase 2 of cluster expand redesign, which enhances the workflow of expanding clusters. So what we've done in phase 2, in phase 1, we had broken down the cluster expand into either a cluster expand now or prepare for expansion phase. Now in phase 2, we provide the option to prepare nodes for being added to the cluster. So your host versions, CVM versions can be brought up to date. Your networking can be brought up to date with the existing cluster. Also, we've done is added the capability to do host networking as part of the cluster expand phase. So as you go through the phases in cluster expand, it has a section to provide host information where you can add VNICs and provide IP addresses and set up your networking information for that particular host for it to be able to join the cluster. There's an additional capability where now we provide users the ability to convert their nodes either from an HCI node to a storage only node and vice versa. So for customers who are repurposing old nodes either from an HCI to storage, this allows them the capability to do that. The other feature that was asked by customers was to do multiple parallel requests for cluster expansion. Now, if we have, say, for example, one set of nodes being prepared for cluster expansion and another set of nodes which are already prepared, we can do both these operations in parallel and do not have to wait for one operation to get done before the other one. It doesn't have to be serialized. Those operations can happen in parallel. And then additional things that have been put in as part of this particular feat is for break fix procedures. We also now users can store cluster-wide network configurations and save them, and then, as I said, during break fix procedures from the stored cluster-wide network configurations, they can restore the network configurations back to what it was on a particular node if required.